I don't know. What am I saying? Who are you? What's your name?
I don't know.
What do people
I don't know.
need to know?
Maybe we should go and listen to other podcasts and see how they start. Hello, welcome to Le Pod. It's a brand new podcast we're going to be putting out from down here in the basement of Le Pub twice a month. We're going to be talking to our staff, our community, local bands, local artists, and anyone we think is interesting.
Yes, welcome to episode number 16 of Le Pod. Proper excited for this one, as well as proper nervous. All the P's there, really making the mic do its work. Someone who I personally have respected for a long time. Been listening to him on the radio, been kind of following his work at BBC Radio 1. Still holds the record for the youngest BBC Radio 1 presenter. Started working there at age 17. Mental, I can't imagine it. I can't imagine working anywhere at age 17, let alone BBC Radio 1. It's insane. And he's still with the BBC now. He's kind of the super sub for literally anyone who can't make their show. He's still on Radio 6 quite often, and as he mentions at the end of the show, he has his weekly Thursday night show on BBC Radio Cymru. That's at 6:30 till 9. Check that out. He's worked with literally A-listers from all over the world in the worlds of music and all sorts of media and culture, from Katy Perry to Beck to Moby to you name it. Bullet for My Valentine, name a band, I can almost guarantee that he's met them, spoken with them, worked with them, and they probably like him, to be honest. And his name is Huw Stephens. We had a fantastic chat. I'd like to thank him once again publicly for giving little old Le Pod some of his time. We really do appreciate it. And I was a bit nervous, I'm going to be honest and upfront with you, but he made me feel right at home, comfortable in the interview seat with him the other end, which was very strange. But yeah, it was great. We talked about everything, including...
But I think it's good to for artists to do those interviews, especially with people like yourself who care about them, because it's almost like when you say things out loud, they become a reality. It's almost like a band meeting, I think. I remember Ricky Gervais walking down the street, and I was a big fan of his comedy at the time, and I was like, oh my god, it's like middle of Extras in the Office and that, and I just blanked him, it's just like, I think I gave him a dirty look. It's like that. I was talking to another learner from Swansea recently who said that she started learning Welsh, and suddenly like road signs make complete sense to her. Road signs she grew up with, words that she grew up with which she didn't understand at all. She's like, oh, of course, that means that. Yeah, that's fine,
Right, let's get on with the episode, because honestly, I could make this intro last forever. He's just done so much. I haven't even mentioned his work with Soon Festival and Green Man and starting Dydd Music Cymru and his stuff on the Story of Welsh Art on BBC iPlayer. Slip that in there because you need to go watch it. He really wants you to, I really want you to, and it's really good. You should. So, we're going to jump in quickly before that, as this is the first episode since reopening the pub. So big thank you for everyone that's come out. The weather has been shocking since we opened the doors. I've got soaked and I've only been serving the drinks, so I don't know how wet you guys must have been sitting out there drinking them, but we appreciate it, and we're really more than happy to be back open again. Fingers crossed that Welsh Government get their act together and allow us to put some shows on, in whatever form that may be. We're open to it. Welsh Government, hit us up, tell us what we need to do, because we'll do it. I personally am dying to get back to a gig, but that was a ramble. I meant to say thank you, so thank you. Wicked. Let's get on with episode 16 with Huw Stephens. Great, so I am joined by Huw Stephens, a man who needs no introduction, even though I'm sure I just gave him a long, glowing one in the introduction just now. How you doing? You okay?
Hey, Ben. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I haven't heard the glowing intro, so thanks. And also, how dare you? I haven't heard it, so I don't know. I'm just covering my tracks there. I think it was Minty that brought us together, wasn't it, Ben?
It was, yeah, because he actually cancelled on me, and then he said, but I'm going for a walk with Huw Stephens. I was like, okay, I'll let you off for that one, yeah. So thanks, Minty, actually. You really hooked me up, yeah.
Well, he's a lovely guy, isn't he?
He's a proper lovely guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And the record holder for the longest episode of Le Pod thus far.
Oh, really? How long is that?
Man, it clocked it. It went over 3 hours, that one.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he just
Don't worry,
went.
everyone. This is not going to be 3 hours. It's going to be a lot shorter, this one.
No, but it was good stuff, man. That's the beauty of a podcast, isn't it? I guess you just go and see what comes up.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Because, like, I remember when podcasts were the new thing, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know what it was. We thought it was a download. And
Right.
I did the first ever Radio 1 podcast. But
I did not know that.
it was, well, yeah, I didn't until recently, to be honest. I didn't realise at the time because it was, we called it a free download, but essentially it was a podcast. But yeah, it's like being from a radio background, like a proper, pardon the pun, Radiohead, like podcast have just completely changed the idea of an interview, which is
Right.
so good because before, like, you know, when you hear an interview on the radio, it's got to be like 2 minutes or 10 minutes or, you know, there's always, sometimes 20 or whatever, there's always an allocated time. And so the free form, just go for it, is such a lovely and interesting way of, it's just normal, isn't it? It's just chatting to people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. I guess it is normal. But was it kind of, not uncomfortable, but was it like a foreign concept to you after coming from radio for so long and having those little kind of short interviews? Was it weird for you? Or
it was, yeah, it takes a bit of changing disciplines, darling. You know, yeah. I suppose it's like going from writing a 3-minute pop song to somebody going, just jam for a bit.
Yeah, write
know.
a symphony or something. A 20-minute long, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just that change. But once you get your head around it, and I love podcasts and just being able to really get to know somebody and all of that. You know,
Yeah.
it's very different to mind you, I love a radio interview as well. I love a Steve Wright in the afternoon, 5 minute, boom, boom, boom. Who are you? What are you doing? Get out my studio type interview as well.
There is a beauty to that, where you have to hit the big topics and move on.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's been the mainstream for so long, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thing of the podcast, though, you are my first guest that is a shared guest of Scroobius Pip, which is a big deal for me. I am a huge fan of the Distraction Pieces podcast and Pip.
Yeah.
So yeah,
me too. I mean, I love Scroobius Pip. He's a complete one-off, isn't he?
Oh,
and he's such an interesting fella. And so when he asked me to go on his Distraction Pieces podcast, I couldn't believe it really, because he's interviewed so many interesting people. And obviously, you know, I did not consider myself to be in that category.
Really? Me? You and me?
Yeah, exactly. And but we had a lovely chat, and he's, you know, we bonded over, loads of things really. But we met each other through me playing him on the radio, along with lots of other DJs as well, because Scroobius Pip and Dan Lassac were awesome. So it was nice chatting to him. And I love how disarming he is, you know, how like
really gets you kind of comfortable.
Yeah, completely puts you at ease and just chats. That's a good podcast, isn't it? It's probably one of the best ones, isn't it? Distraction Pieces.
I think so. Yeah, it's up there for me for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, kind of going on from what you said about how he's had so many guests. Like you yourself have had so many guests and interviewed so many people and had contact with countless artists. Is there one that stands out as kind of the most nerve-wracking, maybe the one that meant the most to you, someone who you highly respected?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing interviews with people since we started Session in Wales, so it's like 22 years ago. So yeah, lots of interviews. I mean, every interview's different, you know, because sometimes when I was doing daytime Radio 1, they'd be like, okay, you're in for Greg James in the afternoon next week, and we've got Katy Perry booked in as a guest on Wednesday. Right. And you'd be like, okay, yeah, I've heard of her. I know she's amazing. You know, I've seen all the videos. She's number one. She's like the world's biggest pop star. Oh my God. You kind of work yourself up into a thing. And then, you know, Katy Perry turns up with like 18 people in tow, including like a makeup artist, a couple of security guards, a couple of people from the record label. It soon adds up. So that's interesting because it's completely out of my depth, really.
Yeah.
It's like I described it as being like going on holiday, where I was used to interviewing pulled apart by horses, and, or Sweet Baboo or Trash Talk or Kate Le Bon or lots of bands that I loved and would play at night.
Yeah.
And people that I genuinely wanted to find out about and chat to and go and see them live and whatever. And then suddenly they go, right, you've got to interview or do something fun with somebody who's been interviewed. Well, that's their job, is being interviewed by people like me. And therefore, of course, they're lovely,
Yeah.
So when people say, who's the worst person you've interviewed? I haven't really met anyone or interviewed anyone because everybody's in it for the right reasons. Everybody's nice, and it's the train going past. It's the Cardiff trains going past.
Ambience. Lovely.
Little ambience, yeah. So that's the sound effects CD that is in the background. So yeah, everybody's lovely. So in terms of people, I interviewed Beck at Maid of Vale, and Beck was, I loved Odelay's, his Odelay album in, I think it came out when I was definitely in school, so it would have been 1995, 96 I think it was, and still one of my favourite albums. So to meet Beck and get him to sign my copy of Odelay was really special. Yeah, it was really great. But I love interviewing. It's always an honour when you get to interview musicians that you love chatting to. So anytime I get to chat to Eros Childs from Gorky's is always a treat.
Yeah.
The same with Griff Reese, who's also my cousin from Super Furry Animals.
Ever?
Yeah.
Wow.
But obviously I'm a big fan of his music, so when I get to chat to him about music, it's a huge pleasure. Yeah. And the same with James from the Manics as well, and Nicky. And it hasn't happened that often. I haven't interviewed James and Nicky that much. But yeah, there's that thing as well with music where if you love somebody, if you love their music, I think you try and act, if you meet those people, you try and act cool in front of them, don't you?
Yeah, for sure.
And I do that. If I see somebody I admire, like I remember Ricky Gervais walking down the street, and I was a big fan of his comedy at the time, and I was like, oh my God, it's like middle of Extras in the office and that, and I just blanked him, It's just like, I think I gave him a dirty look. It's like,
Scowl.
Yeah, and I've been in a lift with Steve Coogan as well, and you're like, blanked him, just completely ignored him because I just did not know what to say.
But that's the thing with you. Like you say, when you meet these people that you respect, you kind of act cool. You've been in around them so long and so frequently that it would be impossible to keep up any sort of facade and stuff. Like it must just be you at this point, surely.
Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of people that I've interviewed, we chat at the start of, when I used to do the Radio 1 show, we chat at the start of their musical trip.
Yeah.
So often, there was no ego and there was no fame thing. I remember when Riz MC, who's obviously an incredible actor now, he's in Sound of Metal and
Oscar nominated.
Oscar nominated, wow. And all of that. And I remember when he was coming in to do sessions for me when he was an MC. Yeah. He was just, and I'm sure he'd probably be the same now as well, because like the best artists, the ones often who've got nothing to worry about, there is no silliness, there is no hassle,
Yeah.
They're just in it for the art and for the love of doing it, and so it's a pleasure to chat to people then, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, that's true. So going from that end of the spectrum, from Katy Perry and Beck, like you say, you've obviously had a huge wealth of experience in interviewing smaller, up-and-coming, kind of first-time bands as well. And that's more my deal on the podcast so far, interviewing bands that maybe haven't even released an EP or kind of are just gearing up for their first tour or whatever. And it's a pleasure, as you say, but it can be kind of tricky sometimes as well. They might not have as much in the bank. They might not have achieved a whole lot yet. They might be even a little less confident to speak on a podcast interview session, not experienced there. Have you had, of course you've had experience there, but what would you say both to people like myself who are doing those interviews and to people who are the artists in those kind of interviews? Is there any kind of tips or anything you've learnt over the years for those kinds of things?
I think when you're starting out, you're the most honest and the most real version of you there is, probably, because nobody's interfering with your music. And although you might want to be interfered with, like musically, you might want managers and people, video directors and stuff. At the moment, when you're starting off, that's when you're making it because you really want to make the music, whether you're an MC or a band or even like a visual artist or whatever, I guess. You're human. That's not to say that bigger artists are not human. Of course they are, but there's a kind of vulnerability and a kind of rawness there, which
relatability, I guess.
Yeah, relatability. And in terms of stuff to talk about, I know what you mean, because there's no things to refer back to, and there's no I saw you at this gig or
this third album or whatever.
Yeah. How was that tour supporting that band in that venue? Because maybe those gigs haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to for artists to do those interviews, especially with people like yourself who care about them, because it's almost like when you say things out loud, they become a reality. It's almost like a band meeting, I think. So asking about aspirations and asking about obviously musical influences and what they're trying to achieve musically is really important. And it helps artists, I think, kind of find their voice. And then you've got the other side, which is like interview technique. So people say, people need media training and stuff. And I don't think that's true, because I think, if anything, like home recording and podcasts and recording at home has just made people understand their voice a bit better.
Yeah.
So there's just a bit of, I think an artist has to want to do an interview to say yes, don't they? There's nothing worse than somebody saying, we'll do an interview, and then not playing along, or not, when I say playing along, not just not wanting to chat or whatever. That's frustrating. That's only happened a few times to me, but you've got to want to do it, and then you just got to chat and force yourself to chat, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. It's come up on the podcast before with Connor Latcham, actually, from Rainbow Maniac, where we talked about the characteristics we like to see in these rock stars, was the term we used, where kind of you don't want them to be hugely forthcoming all the time. Like, you don't want them to be the boy next door sometimes.
No.
But then that kind of makes our lives a bit harder as well. So there's a thin line, a balance between the two, you know what I mean? Yeah,
but I think the artist always is holding the cards, aren't they? I think the artist can be as aloof or as interesting as, because there's nothing worse than a well-trained... I've done interviews with bands, and sometimes I can tell if they've been, media trained, especially if they were signed to a label or something back in the day and there was money involved. You'd be like, do you know what? They were really nice and really pleasant, but God, it was boring. I'd rather having Liam Gallagher rock up when he was starting Oasis and being the real deal,
Yeah.
And I think there's... I think people appreciate real, don't they? And they appreciate hearing people's real voices. So I'm not saying you have to be polite and say yes and thanks to everything. I'm just saying that you've got to be on the same page in a little bit as the person who's interviewing you. They're interviewing you because they like you normally, and because they want to provide, give you a platform to say what you want, stuff you've got to say. So if you haven't got anything to say, you're gonna have to dig and find. You're gonna have to dig a little bit deeper and find stuff to say, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I was reading something the other day, might have been today actually, about Saint Vincent.
Oh yeah.
I'm not even sure this is true yet, but it said that on one of her press tours, she got journalists to like crawl through this kind of pink tunnel into like a pink box where you'd hear like an audio recording before you could even start the interview about rules of recording or something. I don't know, but it sounded proper like trippy and surreal. But
that's cool.
That's one way of starting an interview, I guess.
Yeah. That's cool. And I
you
guess
up for that? If she gives you the call?
Yeah, of course. I suppose there's some stuff that if you are St. Vincent level, you can get away with as well.
Yeah, true.
if I asked you to do that before this interview, Ben, I'm sure you'd say, no, thank you very much.
I'd still be crawling through that pink tunnel all the way to Cardiff.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, and also journalists love that. Like, do you remember when Rihanna flew loads of journalists around the world in a private plane?
Yeah.
Gave him loads of booze and took him to loads of different countries, but didn't give him an interview.
Yeah.
I don't think she gave anybody an interview. And that was the story then. Like, that was front page news, and it was in all the music mags, and it was on telly, and it's like, you know, our journalist trips hell. But that was the story. That
it's pretty genius from Rihanna as well, isn't it? Not having to give a single interview, but still front page.
That's it. Very
top
clever.
level stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it is great.
So, pivoting a little bit then, because during lockdown hasn't seemed to slow you down a huge amount. Like, you've had several different projects on the go and stuff. One of them being the history of art in Wales on BBC. Was that must have been filmed before lockdown? Was
No, it was filmed during lockdown. It was three 1-hour programmes on BBC iPlayer, through BBC Two Wales and BBC Four, and we started planning it end of 2019.
Right.
Hoping to film it beginning of 2020, and then lockdown came, so it was delayed till I think about June. And television work was allowed to continue during lockdown. So we could travel around Wales with social distancing in our own separate cars, and with masks on. So we filmed 3 hour-long programmes, the story of Welsh art, and it was interesting for me because I hadn't done anything like this before. I am not an art expert. I like art, of course, who doesn't? But I had an interest in Welsh art through growing up in a house with some Welsh art in it, and another train there. So it was a chat.
Your father was mainly into kind of poetry and written art. Was that the case?
Yeah. Literature was my dad's thing, and he kind of dedicated his life to, literature from Wales in English. Really was his speciality and his passion.
Yeah.
He believed in Wales and its writers, and wanted writers in English from Wales to succeed and to have a bigger platform. And so that was his speciality and his passion, really. So he wrote over 150 books and edited over 150 books. And it wasn't just about writers from Wales. He was interested in writing from all over the world. But that was big part of my growing up then. So the house where I was growing up was full of books, but also he liked art as well, of course. So we had some lovely art pieces on the wall, and so I knew about some of these artists, and my dad would tell me about them. So to do the programme was, I learnt a lot. People tell me, we learnt a lot watching the programme, a lot about Wales, a lot about the history. And I was like, and that's what I'd say as well, is like literally I learnt so much making it, because it was really well researched, of course. There were some great directors and researchers on it. And it's important because, we're not always taught about these things in school. Art is often seen as, it's a bit like music sometimes. Sometimes it's seen as like being like a creative, hobby for some people, and it's nice and it's, it's lovely, but, it's not important.
No, yeah.
Whereas actually, it is important, I think, and music and culture and all of that does play a really important part in people's lives and in countries and in communities, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like it numerous times in the programme and throughout my life and kind of experiences with art, like it makes me feel things rather than like the other subjects that we learn in school, your maths and your sciences, which give you these facts and thoughts, I guess, but not so much feelings. And it's that's why it's important in my mind, at least.
Absolutely. But of course, the danger with how you feel about things is you can't quantify it, can you? You can't write it down, and you can't I guess businesses and governments can't kind of. I mean, good ones can. They can make you understand the feeling is important, and people need to feel things. But it's impossible to put your finger on a feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. How much is it worth?
Yeah.
Which is a sad reality of modern life, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But even in, I think it was the first episode of History of Welsh Art. Was it the History of Welsh Art? Or the Story of Welsh Art?
Yeah.
Story of Welsh Art, yeah. There was something that was said in it that stood out to me a lot. Is art is death and death is art, was one of the things that was said in there, which is very deep. Like we're getting straight in there. And
I think that's what I loved about the programme was that we learnt a lot about the artists and about Wales through their art.
Yeah.
Instead of going, this is the story of what happened in Wales, it's like, this is what happened with artists, and artists tell us how we feel, and a bit like musicians, they're the ones who reflect back on us how, what's going on in the world and how we feel, and so there was an element of history. Well, there's a big element of history, of course, but instead of going, these were the valleys and they were poor, and there was poverty everywhere, we'd follow the story of Cedric Morris, the artist, and he went to work with people in the valleys and, worked with people who had poverty and created some incredible artwork as well with them, and about them and based on where he was. So, yeah, that's why art is important, I suppose, is because it does tell the story of what's going on at that space and time. And and the same with with local music scenes as well. Like they might not speak directly about issues that are concerning you, but they're part of a community, and circumstance dictates who makes music and who gets to play and who gets to do it full time and who gets to record an album and so on and so on. Sometimes, doesn't it? It's all political. I think everything's political, and everything's a produce of that. And so art was interesting. I know you were telling me that you liked the story of Penry Williams in Merthyr Tydfil.
Yeah, he stood out to me just because, like a lot of people in art in general, and in the programme even up until that point, it seemed like art was kind of the domain of the upper classes, people that could devote the time to art and still be able to survive and make a living, kind of thing, which was hard back in the day. This was probably, at the start of the programme, 1700s, 1800s, something like that. But Penry Williams, he was from Merthyr, kind of was a worker in the mines, I think, and then his
master.
Yeah, the master of the mine kind of saw his talent and made him into an artist, or made that a viability for him. Yeah,
and there was a lot of that kind of funding of young artists going on. And I think, the masters at the time, they realised that they had loads of money, and, some of them were nice and wanted to invest in local artists and local talent. And wanted to show off their workforce as well. And so, it was amazing going up to Cyfarthfa Castle, actually, going up to Merthyr Tydfil and meeting everybody there and seeing all the artwork that's on the walls and in the storerooms there as well. How much incredible art of that time there was. And when you see the ironworks and what Merthyr Tydfil was, it's like insane, there's nowhere else like it in the world, I don't think, at the time, where there was just full-on industry and everything based around it. And the same up in North Wales, in Penryn as well. There were some incredible paintings in the programme of Penryn Quarry, and the paintings of the workers. No health and safety, obviously, just like people with pickaxes dangling off a cliff,
It's like sparks everywhere and stuff, and
that was going on at the time, because that was the reality, and the bosses wouldn't let somebody paint something that wasn't real, because it would make them look bad. They were obviously all right with all of this going on, because they commissioned it. And so I saw, and in the programme, that's what's great about it, is we all see all this incredibly beautiful artwork some of it's dark and some of it tells of, poverty and of kind of sad and depressing themes. But some of the paintings are beautiful and show Wales, not just mountains and landscape painting, which is beautiful, but also ideas about Wales. Like there's a guy, Christopher Williams, the artist. He's got a few beautiful pieces. There's a piece called Wales Awakening, and it's an incredible picture, and it's up on the wall in Carnarvon Town Council offices at the moment. And so, that's that was an interesting one as well to see his work.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of names, and if anybody's interested in it, and I recommend a book called The Tradition by Peter Lord, which is if you ever need a nice Christmas present or a birthday present for somebody who likes Welsh art, get them that if they haven't got it already.
Okay, cool.
Because it's beautiful. It's basically the history of Welsh art.
Right, amazing. And the TV show is still on BBC iPlayer, right?
It should probably be on iPlayer for a while,
Yeah.
I reckon. Yeah, it might
Check
be
it
up for
out.
a year or something. That's the beauty of
Yeah.
iPlayer and stuff like that. It is. But yeah, if you're ever bored, dear listeners, and you don't know what to watch, and you've gone through Netflix and you've gone through Amazon Prime and you've gone through Disney Plus or whatever you've got,
Yeah.
don't forget about the story of Welsh art on iPlayer. You love it.
Yep, I would highly recommend it, definitely. So going on from that then as well, you, I'm not sure if this was done in lockdown as well, but is it a podcast series or radio series, The Story of Music, the story of Welsh music?
That was done during lockdown as well.
Right,
Yeah, story
yeah,
of Welsh
yeah.
language music, yeah.
Yeah, so that was keeping you busy as well. Like,
Well, to be honest, I and Shan Aleri were presenting it, but Gareth Potter wrote it, and then Working Word, Dan Tite and Geraint John produced it, and so they did a lot of the work, and it's a really good podcast. It's on BBC Sounds, and it's really important, because I'm a Welsh speaker, so if you're interested in the Welsh language music scene, you sort of know all of this anyway. So it's really important for me to be able to do it in English as well, because often, we don't know, the Welsh language scene doesn't know what's happening sometimes in the English language scene and vice versa, and especially in terms of music history. Sometimes it can be frustrating that we all don't know our own story. So to do this podcast, and they're only about 15-20 minute episodes.
Yeah, nice and short, yeah.
Yeah. And each one could have been a lot longer, and there's stories within the podcast which would be incredible podcasts on their own, like a lot of things,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really interesting one. If you're interested in the history of Welsh music, then check out it's called The Story of Music, MIWSIG.
The Welsh
which is
spelling,
the Welsh spelling of music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was glad that you kind of bridged that gap between the Welsh and the English in terms of the history of Welsh music, because I'm not a Welsh speaker at the moment. Yeah, I'm trying. Don't get me wrong. I'm on a 217-day Duolingo streak.
Oh,
so
da iawn.
I don't speak Welsh now. Don't embarrass me on the podcast.
I can say da iawn.
But yeah, like you were saying, it's almost like I'm a proud Welshman. I'm proud to be Welsh. I'm proud of the country and everything that it stands for. But it's like a sense of shame almost that I don't speak the language yet, and that I can't quite tap into that yet. And I feel that's I'm not alone in that. I feel that's kind of a shared feeling, especially in South Wales, where the language isn't as much emphasised.
But you were taught it in school, though?
I was. But, and this might be my school, it was almost a joke subject. It was just a doss about subject that nobody took seriously. It was, you don't need to speak Welsh, nobody speaks Welsh, why are we even learning Welsh? And now later on in life, I come back and realise the importance of it, that it should be my language, and that I should have given it more time. But
I think it's your language whether you speak it or not,
Right,
because you're Welsh, because you live here, so it is your language, and I think, everybody, you can't help what you know and what you don't know,
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I'd have learnt maths better at school than I actually did, because I was absolutely terrible at it. I just so happened to have been brought up in a Welsh-speaking family. You know, my dad was from Pontypridd and wasn't a Welsh speaker. Then he learnt it when he was in his early 20s.
Oh, did he?
Met my mum,
Yeah.
who was a fluent Welsh speaker from Aberystwyth, and then they both brought us up, me and my sisters, up speaking Welsh in Cardiff then. So,
Yeah.
so you know, I've got a lot of Welsh-speaking friends, got a lot of English-speaking friends that, you know, yeah, it's tricky one, isn't it? Because it's, when you're in school, I understand that mentality of, well, why would I bother doing Welsh? Because, you know, the whole world speaks English.
Exactly.
But then you could say the same about, you know, French or Spanish.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
they could say the whole world speaks English as well. And it's about where you're based and what you want to do with your life, and just about the culture, really. Somebody described it beautifully as the moment they started learning Welsh, they could see TV in colour rather than in black and white.
Right.
I was talking to another learner from Swansea recently who said that she started learning Welsh and suddenly, like, road signs make complete sense to her. Road signs she grew up with, and words that she grew up with, which she didn't understand at all. She's like, oh, of course, that means that. Yeah, that's fine, you know. So, yeah, it's a personal thing as well, language, because, you know, it's in your head, isn't it? It's on the tip of your tongue. It's like the most personal thing you're ever going to get, probably.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And the link being in my mind between the Story of Music podcast we were just talking about and what we're talking about now is that in one of the first few episodes, there was that movement in the 60s, maybe, of people kind of going to prison to ensure what was it? Not the genuity, the like the stamp of authenticity of the Welsh language in Wales, where they would like paint the Welsh onto road signs and stuff. Like it meant so much to them that Welsh was recognised.
Well, it was really important, yeah, and it was in an era of protest around the world where people were standing up for their rights, and they were looking at governments and going, well, they don't talk for us, you know. And it happens all the time. It's happening now, and it's happening all over the world, where people are looking at governments and going, well, actually, how can we make this fairer, and how can we represent our lives and make it legal? And so that's, you know, so that those protests from the beginnings of the Welsh Language Society in the 60s, it was a movement, and, you know, thanks to them, the Welsh language got legal status in Wales, and simple things like, you know, you could do your marriage vows in Welsh, and birth and death certificates could be written in the language that the family spoke, and, you know, the fact that you had to fight for these things still it's kind of insane, really. But
just taken for granted now.
Yeah, well, yeah, but of course you can't take it for granted because it could get taken away at any minute, you know.
Yeah.
So there's always, you know, that's why, you know, standing up for things that you believe in is so important, isn't it? Because your little thing can have a big impact and make it fairer for a lot more people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, linking what we're talking there about protest and standing up for what we believe in and stuff, and your long career at the BBC, do you ever feel, I don't know if censored is the right word, or like were you always able to kind of share the things that you believed in and wanted to stand up for while at the BBC? Because obviously it's a national kind of public corporation. How did you feel about your days there? I say like it's a past tense, you're still there now, but
yeah, I'm still an employee of the British Broadcasting Corporation, and we're very impartial, you know. Impartiality is like a big part of the BBC, and I've always learned that, and I've always had that in me. So because it's my job, I've had to be impartial, you know, in terms, and you know, like somebody might go on Facebook and say, I'm voting for so and so as my local candidate. I'm not going to do that because I can't show bias towards a political party, or be for a political candidate or whatever. And so, so, you know, that's that's fine. That's the job.
Yeah.
And I understand that, the BBC has to be all things to all people.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I don't have beliefs and that I
No,
don't
of course
have
not,
strong
yeah.
opinions and that I don't, vote or
Yeah.
sign petitions or whatever for things that I believe in, or go on marches or protests or, for things, because, I'm human and I've got beliefs in things like everybody. So, yeah, that's just part of the job.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Is it harder at all at the moment where things are so kind of not riotous, but there's so many protests everywhere and like people seem to be divided on a lot of different issues? Like, is it a struggle ever to maintain impartiality, or is it kind of just part of the job, like you say?
Yeah, it's just part of the job,
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot to get angry about, and I know there's a lot to worry about. But me tweeting about stuff isn't going to make it happen and make it go away, And I've learned that, and I'm lucky that I work in music and I work with music, and music for me is like kind of music's music, isn't it? It's all things to all people, and there's no. Although I said earlier that everything's political, I believe that, there is politics involved to everything. But music is an escapism, and music is it's a positive thing as well. I think if you're into if you're into music, you're into it for the creative side, and you're into it for the community side, and you're into it for why you like a song and things like that. It's a positive thing more than anything else. So I've kind of tried to concentrate on that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm almost jealous that you kind of, that's your day-to-day job. Like that's your life kind of thing. That's music. Hopefully I can build it as well. Yes.
Oh yeah, I mean,
privilege.
I've been really lucky, having a job which has taken me to do radio things, and I want to do radio from a really young age, and been lucky to do it for a long time.
Yeah, a long time. I think it's well known that you were the youngest Radio 1 DJ when you started working, yeah?
That's
17,
right.
Was it?
I think I still hold that record. I'm sure that's probably going to change at some point, but that's fine.
You'll allow it.
I'm 40 now, so, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's a long-standing record. Fair
I'm
play.
nearly 40 anyway, at the time of recording.
Yeah. I was speaking to Sam Dab from the pub.
Yes.
But apparently you came to the pub just after you heard the news that you were kind of working at Radio 1, right? You came to like celebrate?
Well, the problem is it's so long ago, I don't remember now. But yeah, I think me and Beth Elvin would have come to the pub, yeah. I mean, Beth was brilliant because she'd like show me where all the gigs were happening, and we'd go to TJ's as well to see gigs and stuff, of course, in Newport. But the last time I was in the pub was, I think it was 2018 or maybe 2019, and pulled apart by Horses were playing.
Yeah.
And so
I was there. Amazing night.
Oh, were you there that gig? Yeah, it was
yeah.
great, wasn't it? And we had a great night. And then Charlie from Busted was in. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I think he was recording nearby, wasn't he?
I don't know why he was there. I remember him being there though. Yeah.
And then Sam Dab said, "Go and have a photo. Come on, let's get in the photo booth."
Yeah.
She pulled me into the photo booth with Charlie from Busted. We had a great time.
Class night. Yeah. And obviously you're heavily involved in the Cardiff music scene as well, with your involvement in the Soon Festival.
Yeah.
How is that at the moment with live music being as it is?
I'm not involved with Soon Festival anymore. Club Bach runs Soon.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so me and John Rosson started it about, I don't remember how long ago it was now. Over 10 years ago. We started it, and then we handed the reins over. Well, I left, and then John handed reins over to Club Bach, who were running it. And, in the events that they did do a fantastic job in running it, and we were so happy that the festival would continue and that a proper grassroots music venue would run it, who understood what the festival was and who understood what Cardiff is, and so yeah, I think obviously with COVID it's been a horrible time for everybody, and festivals like Soon of course, are going to be struck, because it's not even like it's a festival in a field where you can have
No.
social
Exactly.
distancing. You're in tiny little packed venues
Yeah.
and rooms turned into venues and whatnot. And that's the charm and that's the beauty of it, is that it is packed and small, and it's all across the city. So it's going to be tough, I think, to see. I mean, I know Great Escape have gone digital again this year in Brighton, and South by Southwest, and soon was kind of based on those ideas. But we wanted a festival that was about Cardiff, from Cardiff, that had a strong Welsh language lineup as well. We wanted all genres covered. So and it changed a little bit every year. Soon Festival. Sometimes we'd have big gigs in Cardiff University. Sometimes we'd have like comedy or literature involved one year, and then it wouldn't happen the following year for various reasons. So we learnt on the job, really, and just kind of changed it a little bit every year. But really proud, of course, of Soon Festival.
Yeah, it's a fantastic weekend for anyone who hasn't been and experienced it. It is, it's like me, I always kind of dreamt of going to South by Southwest. Like, it sounds absolutely amazing, and Soon is the closest thing you can get to, I would say, in this country. Obviously, there's Great Escape as well. There are similar things, but Soon, just stands out. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was always good, and it was all about the lineup every year, really. It was all about local promoters coming on board to help out with picking lineups, or the trainer, and making it happen. But I'm sure it'll be back. And
do you know if they're going online this year at all?
I don't know. I don't want to talk on their behalf.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are, to be honest. I'm not sure if it would work for Soon going online. I think because Great Escape and South by Southwest is more of an, well, not more, but it's a big industry thing as well.
True.
And lots of different countries involved. Whereas Soon tends to be a big, strong Welsh lineup. And I know Focus Wales did some digital stuff this last time they had at a festival. So I just hope everything, can get back to normal. And I hope venues like Le Pub and Club and so on can have people in them who don't have to socially distance.
Yeah, me too.
Because that's their livelihood, isn't it? And that's the only way small venues can work. I mean, you can social distance in the O2, of course. I mean, even they would struggle eventually making up the money. Mm-hmm. But for small venues, you can really see the danger, can't you?
Oh yeah, literally. We'll have to cram as many people as is legally allowed in on a good day, just to break even. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're making money hand over fist before the pandemic, let alone having to social distance and stuff. It's tough. What are your thoughts on the kind of live streamed festivals and gigs? Have you watched many, participated in many over lockdown? Are you a fan, or?
I have seen a few, and I think they're only happening, aren't they, because the live human event can't happen.
Of course, yeah, it's second best.
It's the second best, but it'll never be the same as going to a proper gig. And so I've dipped into some, of course, the Focus Wales ones and things, but I couldn't throw myself into some of them the way I wanted to, just because, I don't know, after the year we've had, it's affected the industry so badly, and I would only just go to gigs, I mean, I'd put on a monthly night in London at the Social. That came to an end in COVID and probably won't happen again. But that's my decision. But I understand that it's important for the artist to have somewhere to play, and I love the idea of, going tuning in to watch a live stream of a band that I like. But in terms of the festival, it's been a weird one. I've been in a weird place with it. So I'm not slagging it off. I think it's brilliant that it's happening.
No, of course.
But I think personally, I couldn't throw myself into it the way I wanted to.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like you were just saying that music is like an escape almost, and live music is that kind of to a T. Like, it's an absolute escape. I don't think about anything else. I don't look at my phone. Like, for a lot of gigs, I don't even speak to other people. I'm just in it in that moment. But whereas a stream, like you're still there, like an email might come in, or
Yeah.
someone might knock on the door, and you're just like,
And you're just at home, and you're looking
Yeah.
you're looking at the pile of washing, and you're looking at
I should be doing that.
and little distractions. So it's just been a massive change for anybody who liked going to gigs and who worked at gigs, isn't it? It's been such a horrific year. People have lost their jobs, and all that expertise is kind of on hold. I just hope that it can all sort of get back at some point. I don't know when that. I've got no predictions or anything.
No, me neither. I'm feeling, for the first time, kind of optimistic, mind.
Good.
We opened Le Pub for the first time after this lockdown just last night.
Yes.
So that was. I'm feeling pretty tired, man. Gotta be honest. Like, it was. I haven't seen past midnight in months. So it was a strange one, but it was great just to have people there and open the doors, and
Nice.
we're getting somewhere. We're finally opening up.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, so kind of swinging again from soon to another festival in Wales. It's funny, just before you came online, I was watching your Guide to Green Man on YouTube.
Yeah.
Obviously, Green Man we have in Wales, which
Yeah.
is a huge kind of title, I guess we could say. And it made me miss it so much watching that video.
Were you a big Green Manor?
Yeah, I've been the last 3 or 4 years. We usually go with a few people from the pub doing. We do a stall for Help Refugees, selling the Choose Love stuff. So we get in that way, and then kind of when we're not on the stall, we go and watch as many people as we possibly can, kind of thing.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
It's a spectacular festival, isn't it? And
it's so good.
It's completely independent, and they've worked really hard on building it up, and it's in a beautiful part of Wales. The lineup's always really interesting, and I mean, I missed that a lot last couple of years as well.
Yeah,
Well,
I miss the
last
feel of the place as well, like the culture, I guess you could say, and just like the people that go there are just so nice, and it's like the biggest family in the world for a weekend. You know what I mean?
That's a nice way of putting it.
I should sell them that. Just put it on the website.
Yeah, although would you want a family as big as that?
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Would
For
you
a
want
big family anyway? But not that
10,000
big.
people rocking up to your family party? It's a
to your Christmas.
It's a lot of pressure, isn't it? That it's a lot of pressure.
True, very, very true. So, going to well, we haven't really left music, but I wanted to kind of tap into the mind of Huw Stephens a little bit, like paint a picture, if you will, of what you look for when you hear a song for the first time. So, someone at Radio 1 comes to you, they hand you a CD or whatever, an iPad, and they say, "Oh, check out this band." So you're putting on your headphones and you're sitting down, you're having a listen. Like, what do you look for? Is it like a feeling? Is it?
I suppose it is a feeling. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never been able to put my finger on what I like, because my job's always been to showcase and to reflect what's going on, and to kind of bring loads of bits together. So I've always found it very hard and to describe what I like about music. I mean, my music collection is like everybody's. It's varied, and it's got all sorts of genres and bits and bobs in it. It's got electronica, it's got country, it's got a little bit of reggae, a little bit of folk, a little bit of metal, kind of all sitting side by side. And so I suppose the thing I look for is, well, I'm not looking for anything. That's the truth. I'm not actually looking for anything. in the I'm not a music maker. Music is made, and musicians make music because they love it and because they're the masters at it. And I'm just happy to showcase stuff that I love. So I suppose if what I enjoy in music is a bit of a surprise, but also at the same time something that sounds really natural, and something that sounds as confident as it wants to within its own remit of music, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, there's so much music made, and we'll only hear a percentage of it in our lifetime. But my focus has been on a lot of Welsh music, and I do 2 shows in the Welsh language on BBC Radio Cymru every week, so that's been a big focus as well. So I'm always looking for interesting things and interesting voices from that scene. But also, I love all music, so I got to choose 4 albums recently for Tim's Twitter listening parties.
Oh, nice.
And I went for Georgia Ruth and her beautiful album Mai. I went for Carwyn Ellis and the Rio 18, which he recorded out in Brazil.
Oh, right.
And then I did High Contrast's latest album. All of these Welsh, of course, that's the theme so far. And then Daedalus, who's an LA-based, or Boston-based now, electronic music producer.
Oh, I don't know them.
He's mates with... they're mates with... Flying Lotus, and it's from that scene of Low End Theory, LA beat makers, Madlib and all of that.
Right, that sounds
and
great.
Daedalus has connections with Wales as well. So anyway, those were the 4 records, and I suppose the thing that ties them all together is that they all sound confident, and when I say confident, I don't mean like brash and like bossy and kind of, hey, look. I don't mean Kasabian, When I mean confident, I mean happy in their own musical skin, I suppose.
Yeah, like they're enjoying it themselves.
Yeah. And something surprising again, something that, there's like, I love an indie rock band as much as the next person.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can get a bit bored of that, and if you need something that stands out to make it a little bit more interesting. And I think the more music you hear, the more niche your taste's going to get, I suppose, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like,
I guess so.
You've been listening to music for, 20 years or something now, have you?
Yeah, 20 odd years, 25 maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So what you're into now is probably quite different from what when you started liking music, isn't it?
Oh, 100%, yeah. Yeah, like I said, I've said on this podcast, my first ever gig was Nickelback.
Amazing.
And I'm still, you say it's changed. No, I still love Nickelback. So it hasn't changed from then. But yeah, well, like some people have the coolest first records and first CDs that they bought. My first CD that I ever bought was a single of Cartoons. Remember them? There's some novelty band called Cartoons.
No, I don't.
I can't even remember the song. It was that one, and then Barbie Girl by Aqua. They were my first 2
I had
CD
that
singles.
CD single as well, actually. Yeah. Where did you see Nickelback, by the way?
In the arena in Cardiff.
Right.
The CIA, as it was then. Yeah.
Chad Kroger.
Yep. Yeah.
Mr. Who's he engaged to?
Avril Lavigne, is it?
Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't think they're together anymore, are they?
I don't think so.
Don't think so.
But yeah, for a while they were Rock's power couple.
Yeah, and it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. No, I mean it's those gigs are like that'll stay with you forever. That gig, won't it? That Nickelback one.
Yeah,
like,
it really will. I remember it, all of it. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
I think that's lovely. Like those first CD singles and stuff, and first tracks that I suppose in 20 years from now, kids will be like, first TikTok video that I remember watching, and first live stream that we remember watching from wherever it was. But
first SoundCloud rapper.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah. And like it's a sign of just things changing, isn't it? Like I'm glad kids won't have to spend 20 quid on a CD. In a shop anymore. Buy it off a merch table, of course, that's different because the money goes straight to the bands. But I'm like TikTok and SoundCloud and YouTube and stuff, like that's quite, I think it's great. Music's everywhere now, isn't it? You don't have to wait.
Whatever gets it to the masses, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you said about the merch table. Like I feel almost like proud of myself that I could support bands in that way. Like I love being able to buy a t-shirt or whatever and support the band. I feel like, yes, good job done. On a similar scale, is there because you've obviously supported bands in so many ways over the years, like giving them platform, like you were saying, and playing them on the radio. Is there anyone that stands out that you're like, oh, I'm proud that I was able to work with those guys, that I'm proud that I was able to see them to where they are today? Is there anyone that...
Well, I don't know, because I've always thought radio play always kind of, it's like part of that big jigsaw of what an artist needs, you know. So I've never been there going, hey, I'm going to make you a star. And if I have said that to anybody, it's never worked, that's for sure. Or, you know, if bands think, you know, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be massive, and it's like, you know, you don't hear from them ever again, which is fine. But no, I mean, it's just weird when you see, not weird, it's just, I remember when Goldie Looking Chain blew up, and I'm not just talking this because of Newport. I remember when Goldie Looking Chain blew up and like had a top 10 hit, and we're on the main stage of Reading and stuff. It's like, never thought that would happen. That's fantastic.
Not in a million years.
And I mean, more recently, you know, Arlo Parks' success has been brilliant to see, only because she's fantastic and she's the real deal. And we were playing her through BBC Introducing really early on. And I loved her music, and we booked her for the introducing stage at a big weekend, or Glastonbury, I think it was. And so to see her like nominated for 3 Brit Awards and be signed to an independent label, which is Transgressive. I mean, it's a big independent label, but it's an independent label. That's amazing. Seeing like the 1975 become one of the world's biggest bands has been amazing as well, because there was a time when nobody else would play them on Radio 1, and it's like, I thought they were great. I thought those early singles were like, you know, Chocolate and stuff like that. Were just
Chocolate was
and
amazing.
Sex, you know, like big hits. But nobody else would play them, so I was very happy to get them into session. And but I can never guess, you know, who would be million selling record, a million record selling band or whatever, or. I remember playing Little Sims really early on. And so it's more just kind of, it's not a surprise with people like Little Sims. It's like, oh my God, finally the world's catching on. She's on Jules Holland, you know. The new video's incredible and new songs incredible. You just want artists to have, and you want new artists to have as much, or just have the respect that they deserve, I think. And it's the same in Wales as well, you know. If a band's poured their heart and soul into an album, you want that album to be heard. You don't want it just to be released and to a small group of their fans only. You want everyone to hear it. And so, you know, that's why Adam Walton and Beth Elvin on Radio Wales and Radio Cymru and those shows, they're really important in terms of spreading all of that out. And that's why venues are really important, because you don't want them to be just like little drops in the ocean forgotten about. They, you know, they're really important, and someone out there is going to love them, maybe more than you even, but that's fine, you know. Like, you don't have to, you know, you can't love everything, can you? But you can like stuff, you can respect stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Funny you brought up Little Sims as well, because she kind of repaid your pushing of her with name checking you in Wings, her song.
She did.
That must have been surreal. That must have been a great moment.
It was, and I remember I was with a friend at Glastonbury last time it happened, and we went to see Little Sims. I was going, oh, she's going to do the song in a minute, which name checks me, and she didn't do it. She's dropped Wings from the set, and but yeah, I think the line's something like da, 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 but you will, and I don't know if you're going to play it, but Huw will. Because at the time I was the only one playing Little Sims on
crazy
on BBC Radio. So but you know, that was my job as well. You know, that's why I'm so lucky to have that as a job, like I did for so long, where your job is to play new artists. It's like, wow, that's you know, it's a real luxury, that is, and it was a real, like, it was a big responsibility as well. So I always took that, you know, nobody ever said, oh, you shouldn't play this or you should play that. So I always took it really seriously.
Right.
And, always kind of tried to play artists that I thought people would like, but also surprising bits and bobs as well, because people like those things, you know, people remember those things. Course, and that's the strength of the BBC, isn't it? Is that we could do stuff like that. We could surprise people.
Yeah. And how much kind of is is your choice to play? Because I know on Radio 1 they have like the A list and the B list and the C list of songs that get played on rotation kind of thing. Did you have, because obviously if you bring in new music you have to find it, did you have kind of more freedom to play what you wanted then?
So that playlist, when I was there, the playlist was on from morning till Annie Mac at 6.
Oh, okay.
And then nighttime it would all change, and it would be a collaboration between presenters and producers. And then later on, shows like Benji B or the Drum and Bass Show, whatever, was pretty much all the DJ's choice then.
Oh,
and
okay.
it was the same on my show in the night. It was a collaboration between me and the producer.
Yeah.
Or producers. And the introducing show I did was all music through BBC Introducing. So it was all unsigned stuff. It was an hour and a half. I knew my time was coming to an end on Radio 1 when they said the show would be an hour and a half. So there's no shows that were an hour and a half. So yeah. So that's how it works. But then it varies from station to station, I think, and it varies from daytime to nighttime shows as well. Like obviously Giles Peterson, for example, on 6 Music chooses, that's his show, and it's all his choice of music then.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's cool. I didn't know that it was the playlist was only up until 6, and then you got to choose your stuff.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because it's still. I mean, it's the they used to call nighttime radio like specialist radio.
Right. Okay.
Where it was a bit deeper and it was a bit more connected to gigs or to club nights or festivals. A bit more music. It is more music focused, isn't it? You're not going to have.
Yeah.
At least traditionally it has been anyway.
True. Yeah. It's not just someone driving home from work. I guess after that time, it's someone who's specifically tuning in to hear what you've got to say or to play. Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it work with like guest presenters like Iggy Pop and Cillian Murphy and people like that? Do they curate their own stuff?
Yeah, I think they do actually. I think they're asked to curate everything themselves. I mean, I think producers might suggest things and help out with finding bits and bobs of music. But yeah, I think mostly it's them. It's them.
That's cool.
Because it's their name on the
tin.
On the tin. Yeah.
So wrapping things up then, we're trying to do a thing called the Le Pod listening post. So we've got a Spotify playlist and we add things that we like and of guests that we have on and things.
Okay.
But then when we have a guest on, we like to ask them either what they're listening to right now that they would like to be added to the listening post, or an up-and-coming artist that they would like to be on the post. So what would your inclusion to the listening post be?
Okay. Oh, you didn't give me prior warning of this.
I didn't,
so
and I should have.
No, it's good. It's good. What I'm saying is it's good. So this is real, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at my recently played. And Mark, do you want to really know what's my most recently played?
Yeah, let's hear it. Go on.
The Best of the Eurythmics.
Oh, class.
Because it struck me that Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart don't get the credit deserved for weird 80s electronic synth music. And I was listening to some of their, like actually it's not the best of, it's their album Touch. And when you skip through the singles, like the album tracks are really weird on there and really good. A Tribe Called Quest, I listened to the Low End Theory as I was wandering around the other night.
Yeah.
I listened to the new Ben Howard album the other day.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't realise it was out. And it's really good. It's different to what he's done before. Here's a Phil Taggart Slacker podcast, another good podcast.
Nice.
Where he interviewed Moby. I enjoyed that one. But the one I'd like to add then to your listening post is an album by For Those I Love.
For Those I Love.
And this is an artist from Dublin, Ireland, who made an album for a friend of his who passed away, and who died by suicide. And
wait, I have heard of these. Is there a link with the Murder Capital and these guys?
Yes. Yeah. So it's the same friend, I believe. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
I love the Murder Capital as well. Yeah. Their album is incredible, but this album came out, and I think it got like incredible reviews. It was like 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Yeah. And a friend of mine in Ireland passed over, and I listened to it in the car actually, and in one sitting, and it's a really emotional, moving club album. So
okay.
you expect it, when I say emotional, moving, I guess you're thinking, it might be acoustic or kind of Nick Cave-esque, but actually it's influenced by the streets and by club music, and it's just a really personal, incredible album. So that's the one that's had the biggest impact on me. So For Those I Love.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll happily add that to both the listening post and my own listening. So,
nice one.
Thank you for that. Happy days.
Thank you, Ben.
We'll pretty much end it there then, I guess. I always kind of give people an opportunity to push where they can find out more about you and what you have going on. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people to check out?
What shall I push? Well, push the story of Welsh Art on iPlayer.
Yeah, cool.
It was worth it. It was worth a watch. And my Thursday night BBC Radio Cymru show, which goes out 6:30 till 9, where it's in the Welsh language, but we play music of all kinds. So hopefully some of your listeners can have a listen to that and see what they think.
Definitely. Amazing. Thank you so much, Huw. Great. Well,
it's nice to catch up with you, Ben. Thanks a lot for your time.
No worries. Cheers, man.
See you in the pub.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Whether it's a gig or not, we'll reserve you a table.
All right. No, I appreciate it. Take care.
Nice one.